Well, hey guys, welcome back. I'm King of Legends here. Well, not on my normal starting screen because, well, I found myself this ship. Well, like, Rebaka's, he helped me find the ship. Pretty sure this is one of my friends from Discord, but, you know, thanks if you are, and, well, thanks if you aren't, and if you are, you know who I'm talking to. But, anyway, let's get into the video. So, pretty sure we continue on. Pretty sure we're at the 3 year time skip. So actually, I'm gonna start just before the 3 year time skip because I want something to happen. Like I said in the Orochimaru attack, well, Orochimaru still escaped. Pretty sure he escaped. He didn't kill the third Hokage. The third Hokage just retired. Tsunade became Hokage after giving a speech from Naruto about how she still has something to live for and all these things. I'm pretty sure that's what it said. And I realized that, well, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. I said that the owner that he had, well, the owner, like, he had the seventh owner, not the 10th or ninth owner. It was the constantly duplicating circles, I'm pretty sure. But, yeah, but the seventh owner isn't in the story, so I'm not going to mention it again. Unless it's, like, for a special summoning or something. Actually, I should do that later on, but let's not get into that now. As I want something to happen. As we skip to Naruto and Jiraiya leaving the village. Well, they had just left the village. As they had went into a traveler's village. As they see, well, some of Orochimaru's Sound 4 attacking civilians, trying to capture children for Orochimaru's pedophile experiments. As this would be Jirobo and Tayuya. As Jiraiya would kind of make this like a test for Naruto to see, not really sure, how strong he'd gotten during the tuning exams. Because the tuning exams hadn't happened much longer ago. It would have happened like 2 weeks ago. So he wanted to see how strong Naruto has gotten since then. So instead of them both just fighting Jirobo and Tayuya, it's only Naruto. While Jiraiya just sits in a tree overlooking the battle. So Naruto approaches the two, and the two, knowing how strong Naruto is, would attempt to run. But Naruto would speed blitz past them, instantly knocking out Jirobo. Well, basically incapacitating Jirobo. He can't really do anything. He didn't get a chance to activate his curse mark or anything. He was just knocked out immediately. That's with Tayuya. I'm not really sure if Tayuya was actually an Uzumaki or not. Pretty sure she was, but I'm not sure if they said it in canon or not. So I'm not gonna say whether she is or not. I'm just gonna call her Tayuya. No Uzumaki or anything like that. So anyway, Naruto begins to talk with Tayuya because he senses something different from her. Because with with all of the other Sound 4, he sensed ill intent. As with Tayuya, he sensed something different, that she did not like having to do these things. She was only doing it because the curse mark forced her to. So he was actually planning on going to find her one day and seeing what her motivations are. As he did sense the same sort of difference compared to the others each time he saw her. As in this series, I'm going to make it to where she resists the curse mark, but the curse mark ends up taking over her body if she resists it too much. She doesn't willingly let the curse mark take over. And Orochimaru can speak to the curse words in this too. the same way Naruto can communicate with his monkey clones. So basically, Orochimaru can push his will to the curse mark, kind of like how Kaguya does with Black Zetsu. So Orochimaru, who could sense Naruto's chakra due to him being a Senju and having a lot of it, makes it really hard to hide it. So, which Naruto does not suppress his chakra at all, unless he's actually fighting to not kill anyone, unless if he's just fighting to train. So otherwise, he doesn't suppress his chakra. So Orochimaru could sense it the moment he arrived. As at first, it was him who told them to run, but when Naruto had basically cornered them, he told Taiyu to fight. At least the curse mark told her to fight, as she had been resisting it throughout this whole time. As Naruto would have begun to ask her motivations, how she ended up with Orochimaru, and and why she was kidnapping children. She would get defensive and say, I have no reason to tell you any of this. And who are you to ask me what my motivations are?" As she'd still be resisting the curse mark because she'd be curious about Naruto as well, as to how he's so powerful despite being younger than her and having no sort of curse mark or anything. As according to her information, there's really nothing special about his bloodline, other than the fact he can you, but he possesses unnatural strength, even compared to that of Tsunade. So she's trying to gather as much information as she can. She doesn't plan on giving this to Orochimaru. She only plans on using this for herself to find Naruto's weakness, so she can basically kill him one day. Well, not kill him one day, but just to have in case she fights him again. So, but she sees no way out of this, so she's trying to prolong this conversation as long as possible. But the curse mark eventually takes over her body because she's been resisting it for too long. So she does end up going into her curse mark stage 2 and summoning the 3 of her puppets. Naruto would actually be struggling against these puppets because of against her sound attacks because, he doesn't really have much of a defense threat since he has sensitive hearing. Because I'm pretty sure I don't think he had sensitive hearing, but he was vulnerable to sound attacks. Mori was. I don't remember. It's been a bit. But I'm pretty sure he did, but I'm not going to say whether he did or not. I'm going to say he's still vulnerable to sound attacks because all shinobi are. So Naruto would basically have to cover his ears, which would leave his abdomen wide open to attack from her puppets, which she would be using the flute to both attack Naruto and command the puppets to attack Naruto as well. So Naruto would actually be struggling to dodge, but seeing as he's not trying to kill Tayuya, he's not using his full power, which is why he's struggling so much in the first place. So Naruto would actually hold on a second. Okay. Naruto would actually try to knock the puppets away long enough to where he can get his bearings again and enjoy the fight. Because as much as Naruto wants to follow that pledge of his or anything like that, he still loves a good fight. So, as serious as this fight is and how badly he's losing, he still wants to enjoy it, regardless if he dies or not. Because that's one of the main things he's cared about throughout all of his years. And I got it wrong where I said his first love was with Uzumaki. It was not. He had to eat her to prevent the other gods from taking her power, I'm pretty sure. It was something like that. But after that, he gave up on love and devoted himself completely to fighting, which is what we see in Origin today. Which is why you see him so happy all the time when he fights. So you'll see, well, Naruto basically trying to knock the puppets a far enough distance to where he can get his bearings again. As Naruto is quickly adjusting to Tayuya's fighting style, realizing that she's coordinating the puppets with the flute, because Naruto, despite being, despite loving the fight, has an analytical ability that is off the charts, like higher than Shikamaru. So he has incredible thinking on the spot. On the spot. I'm not really sure what I said spot for, but continuing on. So he realizes that she is coordinating them with the flute as he begins to memorize the patterns of the flute like Shikamaru did, but it didn't take him as long to realize it. So Naruto would have memorized it by then, as in he could tell what puppet was coming from where and how the flute attacks actually work. As Tayuya, this time expecting someone would eventually figure it out, due to fighting many more opponents, would then begin throwing kunai. While, I know you can't one-hand a flute, but because of plot, I'm going to say she can do it. Actually, I'm going to say she grew two more arms with her curse mark stage 2, because Orochimaru kind of had to upgrade hers, because she could resist the other curse mark. Just letting you know right now, Tayuya is not in control of her body, so she is not as strong as she would be in canon. As in canon, she was doing it willfully, so she actually wanted to kill anyone she was fighting. But she does not want to kill Naruto, as she's still curious about him and wants to gather more information, but the curse mark is kind of blocking her consciousness from reaching her body. So she is slightly weaker. To the point where I'm pretty sure, like, and in the actual canon, if I had to put her strength on a scale, I'd say she was mid to high tuning, but at this point she'd be low to mid tuning. So she's on the lower end of the tuning scale. She wouldn't be much weaker, but she is weaker. And she's slowly resisting the curse mark as the fight drags on. So it's kind of like how Ino's mind transfer jutsu works. Basically, the curse mark's consciousness kind of takes over and pushes her consciousness into a corner and just leaves it there. But you can resist it like Sakura did. I'm not even sure how she did that, but she kind of just pushed out of her mind magically. But they still end up tying because of plot. But anyway, Naruto, not well, yeah, but Tayuya would be resisting the curse mark as her body having muscle memory due to fighting all these battles and the intense training she'd done to counter anyone who had learned the patterns of her flute, would have begun throwing kunais with explosive tags everywhere. As, she'd begin to try and trap Naruto, but little did she know, kunai with the explosive tags don't work because Naruto is basically bomb-proof. He's basically explosion-proof due to his incredibly high durability. So, he'd end up closing the distance and basically sealing the curse mark. As Tayuya would kind of basically like a tsundere would. As she would get she'd be pretty pissed off that she needed help from Naruto just to get over the stupid curse mark, as she was halfway there to getting over it herself. So she decided that she wouldn't return to Orochimaru, and since Naruto had sealed the curse mark, Orochimaru can't track her through it or communicate with her through it. So she 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 grumbling decides to thank Naruto, as then she, well, ran off onto her own adventure. Well, at least for now. As Jirobo would have no idea what happened, as he just returned to Orochimaru's base and Tayuya was missing. As he thought she just returned without him because he was on the ground knocked out. So, when he informed Orochimaru that Tayuya was gone, Orochimaru tried to find her with the curse mark, and he saw that he couldn't reach her curse mark. That's when he realized that the curse mark had been sealed away. As he was pretty mad about this because he wanted Tayuya's body because of her unique flute ability. I'm not really sure if the information that was in the previous body transfers to the next, but seeing as Orochimaru loved collecting jutsu, it probably would. So he was probably planning on taking over Tayuya's body when she became more powerful, and then going on to the rest of the Sound Four, taking all of their abilities, and then taking over Sasuke's eventually. That's probably what he was going to do. But, well, he could have done it, but he decided to just go straight for Sasuke. As well, Taiyo would run off. Jiraiya would congratulate Naruto on handling the situation. Naruto, while having fun, a bit of fun in the fight, would have dragged the fight away from the town they were in, basically minimizing destruction. As Jiraiya would have congratulated him on this, as they would have continued on with their trip. As we skip to this day exactly 3 years later. As Naruto would remember meeting Tayuya that day, seeing something different about it, as then, well, he'd begin talking with Jiraiya about that day. As during this time, I'm going to explain what Naruto's abilities are. He has gotten imperfect wood sage mode. I'm not really sure what that looks like because Hashirama had complete wood sage mode, but you can just imagine it. So, anyway, he'd have imperfect wood sage mode. He would have a complete thousand-handed golem because it was 3 years and he got the 300 hands in a month, well, 2.5 months. So it shouldn't have taken him long to get 1,000. He would have unlocked. I know this is highballing it, but I mean it's 3 years, so he would have unlocked 60% of Morgan's power. He'd be straining himself at around 50%. He did get control over the cloud, which I still do not know the name of. If y'all can leave that in the comments, and some more Jin's moves in the comments, please do that. Well, I don't know how to pronounce the name, more like, but anyway. But as we continue on, he would also have, well, he decided to not develop his plant style that much further because it wasn't practical for him to use strange combinations with his fighting style because his fighting style was perfected as there were no weaknesses in it if he did not use plant style. As plant style would delay his attacks because of the drainage of chakra. So the plant style stays the same. I'll probably make a what if on the future of just the plant style, or I'll pass the idea on to someone else. I'm not really sure. So, anyway, he would have gotten 60% control, but could only use 50 without straining himself. Yes, I changed the proportions of strainage and things like that because, well, if him being only to use 10% and straining his body, and then his body breaking at 20, well, it wouldn't it wouldn't be right, honestly. But now at this point, Naruto using 50% of his power, well, 50% of Mori Jin's power, which would basically be, well, at 60%, it'd be everything without the crown, so all the artifacts without the crown. But at 50%, it would be, it would be, uh, it'd be basically Yaoi, the Cloud, and the strength mode of the Dragon Armor. As the Dragon Armor has three different modes, I'm pretty sure it has three. It has the strength mode, the speed mode, and then its ultimate mode, which is just like a combination of the two. But the strain on the body is much higher than either of them. But the one Morijin normally uses is just the standard mode that it's normally in, which is the speed mode, I'm pretty sure. But no, because the speed mode, he grows wings, I think. But anyway. Well, I think there are four modes. There's the standard, the strength, the speed, and the ultimate, which is a combination of the strength and speed. He is able to extend Yui to its full length. He couldn't before because it was too heavy for him to consistently lift, so he couldn't extend it to its full length. But Yui can reach the moon if he extends it to its full length, and Yui would be about the size of the the land of fire if he were to make it its full width, and its full length would reach the moon. So, and that's not far off from its actual size. I don't remember Yali's exact measurements, but it did reach pretty high into the atmosphere. As even when it was broken in half, it still reached the atmosphere. So, I don't know. What am I talking about now? But anyway, Naruto, well, I'm pretty sure you know who the ship is by now. The ship is Tayuya, because why not? And they're reasonable, their ages are reasonably close, as Tayuya is 2 years older than Naruto. Pretty sure. But if she's not, she is in this, because she doesn't look to be much older than Naruto is. Because eventually she will come to Leaf Village, but actually, let me just go into something right here. So, after Naruto is basically reminiscing with Jiraiya about the 3 years, they're talking about Naruto's new abilities and Jiraiya's perfected Sage mode. As Naruto had told him that his Sage mode is imperfect and that he needed to finish his training while they still had time before the Akatsuki attack. The Akatsuki started attacking tailed beasts. As I'm not really sure if I gave him prior knowledge before. Pretty sure I did it, but because he's smart, he would have a feeling that eventually someone would start to come after the tailed beast for their power. As he would have been looking in the bingo book, as he would have found this group known as the Akatsuki. As in their informational spot, it would say that they take bounties, and well, it would say when he read it that they take bounties, and they are looking for those with power. As Naruto would immediately get the impression that they're power hungry, and eventually they would begin coming after the tailed beast. So Naruto would warn Jiraiya and Tsunade of this before they left, as Jiraiya would recognize the name Akatsuki, as in he'd say that they could one day come after him, and Naruto, well, which would make Jiraiya suggested 3 years training, and all this other stuff, which would happen. So, well, we'd skip the 3 years, we'd go to here. As they'd be on their way back to the Leaf Village, they would have sent a message to Sonata that they're on their way back. As she'd be pretty happy because, well, she hasn't seen her grandson for 3 years. Why wouldn't she be happy? But, well, she would be pretty happy. She'd get a bit too excited and kind of slam her fist into the desk, which would destroy it completely and send a hole through the floor. So she'd be out of the office that day to get the Hokage office repaired. I only wanted that to happen just because I'm not really sure. But Naruto and Jiraiya were walking back to the village as Naruto would see a kunai fly past him and a red flash just whiz by. Naruto, having high speed perception due to his own high speed, would know that this is Tayuya as he'd speed after her. If Jiraiya would just be confused as he'd only see the red flash as when he looked at Naruto, Naruto was gone. So he'd just say, ah, there he goes again. As this is not the first time this has happened, but it is the first time it was Tayuya that Naruto just so happened to chase him. As other ninjas did try to go after Naruto because of his record in the bingo book. And by this point, because of what he did in the sand attack, he was labeled an S-rank shinobi. So ninjas were coming after him. As Naruto would chase after Tayuya with Yaoi in hand, as then, well, he'd see that she had completely reinvented herself. She had gotten new clothes, a new hairstyle, and everything. But she was still just as angry as always. And for what a weird reason in Naruto, he seemed to find this attractive. But he'd always just push the thought aside. He'd just push the thought aside as he'd ask her why she threw the kunai at him. As she just wouldn't say anything. And she'd after a moment of silence would say, "You know you owe me, right?" As Naruto would then say, "What do you mean? I freed you from the curse mark. How do I owe you anything?" As she would kind of just say, "Because you do. That's it." Naruto would basically, he'd be confused, as in she'd turn around, blushing a bit, not realizing that she's blushing, but she'd be blushing a bit when she looked at him. As Naruto would do the same thing, as then she'd realize she's blushing, as in kind of like her tsundere type way, would hit him and start yelling Baka like any other tsundere would. That felt so cringe. I never want to do that again. I'm never saying that again. Anyway, she'd actually be pretty mad now because she basically, although she knows that this is her fault, she does still blame it on Naruto. But Naruto's just confused about this whole process as he just feel something different around her now. As he feels the same way he did when he was around his first love before she died. As he had forgotten this feeling long ago due to, well, not ever actually loving anyone the way he loved his first. Not really sure what you'd call. Pretty sure it was Hephaestus to Mori Jin's original name. I'm not really sure. Not, I can't say his original name because it is like 30 letters long, and I'm pretty sure it's in Korean, and I can't say that. But anyway, kind of forgot something, but it'll be after this scene. So Naruto would feel his heart racing. His face would basically turn red as he'd be trying to do everything he can to calm himself down because he'd never felt this way before. Well, not in this life, and not in the last. As the memories from his first life are kind of distant, but they're still there. As he'd realize what this was, as he thinks back to his pledge, as he'd say, well, as he'd think, wow, I thought this would take a lot longer, but her? Is she the one? As Naruto would he would turn even more red, as Tayuya would just be looking at him like he's an idiot because, well, he's just staring off. And she basically hit him with her hand, basically, and it knocked her back into reality because he was in deep thought. And he's like, wait, what? As he's just looking around, and he sees Tayuya in front of him, kind of just pissed off. He's like, oh, my bad. As Tayuya would kind of, as she would have actually been thinking about Naruto throughout these 3 years because, well, he helped her. As she basically feel like she should actually fall in love with him, but each time the thought crossed her mind, she'd put it off because she'd think it's just like guilt because he saved me. It's not that. I can't fall in love with him. He's an idiot. As she would just keep putting it off until she saw Naruto. And she'd feel the same way she felt all these other times, but much. The urge was the urge, or not really sure how to describe it, just, I'm going to say urge. The urge, or the feeling was way stronger than before. With Naruto, the same thing would have been happening to Naruto. As Jiraiya, he would have eventually followed Naruto's chakra there, as he would just be looking, as he'd just be taking notes for his book. Because even though Jiraiya is a perv, he should understand love enough to write books about it, so. Well, I still doubt that because he's a perv who, I'm not even surprised, didn't get laid before he died, so. Man was like 50 and died a virgin. I don't think he was a virgin, but if he was, I feel pretty bad for him, honestly. You're like 50 years old. But anyway, well, Naruto would just, oh, my bad. Naruto would just say, Naruto, well, for whatever reason, he just feel the urge to kiss her, as she would do the same, as just for comment, just because. Jiraiya would kind of clear his throat, like, trying to get their attention, as Naruto and Taiga would realize what they're doing. As in, they'd look at Jiraiya, as in, Taiga would kind of blitz Jiraiya and punch him in the gut, just sending him fly, with the nosebleed and all, because Jiraiya kind of was feeling the romantic tension in the air. So, he kind of got sent flying right back to where they were, which I'm going to say was by a bridge, just because. And Jiraiya ends up landing on the bridge. Doesn't fall, because the bridge is made of stone, so he'll be fine. I'm actually going to say that Naruto and Jiraiya were on their way to the Land of Flames, because Naruto wanted to check in on them. So this bridge was actually the bridge to the Land of Waves. So Jiraiya would have landed on the Monkey King Bridge. I believe I called it that. So he would have landed on the bridge. He would have been knocked out, but Well, Inari, now pretty sure he was like 8 when he was when he was well during the Land of Waves mission. He'd now be 11, as Inari would find him, as they would recognize him immediately because Dry is infamous throughout the Land of Fire because, like he said, he's the Toad Sage, Dry. As would Inari wouldn't recognize him because he doesn't know about the ninja world yet. As he'd go get his mother saying that some weird old man fell out of the sky and landed on the bridge. As his mother would go and check it out, as she realizes Jiraiya, and she would actually go and treat Jiraiya and land down on a bed in her house. As we skip back to Naruto and Tayuya. So Naruto and Tayuya, after sending Jiraiya flying, would basically go back and look at each other, as they both kind of blush and look away from each other. As Tayuya would kind of feel awkward, as she just kind of try to slip away, but Naruto wouldn't let her because he wanted to talk to her. As they reminisce about the past 3 years, not going into any sort of things related to emotion or romance or anything like that. Because even raising the subject of emotion, like controlling it or saying no or anything like that, would kind of turn them into a blushing mess. So they just avoided the topic altogether. So anyway, they would just kind of say goodbye to each other, as Taiyo would tell Naruto to remember that he owes her one. As Naruto would just say okay, as she would jump off. Well, she would go off, as Naruto would go back to the bridge, as he realized Jiraiya isn't there. As he saw Jiraiya land on the bridge, so he'd be a bit confused until he sees Inari running down the bridge, as he'd be screaming Naruto's name. As Naruto would say, Inari, is that you? As Inari would just smile, kind of like how Naruto did as a kid. As Naruto would smile back at him, as Inari would kind of say, "It's nice to see you again, Naruto." As Naruto would say the same thing, as they'd head into the village, where I'm not sure if Tasuno had died or something by this point. I don't remember seeing. I don't, like I said, I didn't watch Shippuden, so I'm not sure if he went back to the Land of Waves, but anyway, well, Naruto had went back to the village. I'm gonna say Tasuno did not die, and he didn't look much older than before. He just had a little bit more white hair. I'm not sure if he had completely white hair because I don't remember exactly what Tasuno looks like. I just know he had like grayish hair, but he had some white hair in the gray. So, so Naruto would say hi to Tasuno and Tazumi, as he had asked them where Jiraiya was, as they would kind of ask, they would kind of ask him why Jiraiya was there anyway, as he kind of scratched the back of his head and say, well, a friend of mine kind of punched him and he landed on your bridge. So, I mean, we were actually traveling here to visit because I wanted to check in on this place after, well, Gato was gone. So, well, he, Naruto had just decided that, well, since Jiraiya isn't in traveling condition, you might as well stay the night. So they decided to stay the night in the Land of Waves, as he does get a bit of training in, I'm pretty sure Zabuza and Haku were a Leaf Ninja in this too. So yeah, so Naruto would would get a bit of training in as he'd be focusing on the well. I'm not sure if I said he mastered. I'm pretty sure he said he mastered Dragon Lore. And in this, I'm gonna give his crown a special ability because I want it to be like that. His crown has a special ability to boost all the abilities of his other relics. Because I'm not really sure if the crown had a special ability in canon, other than I'm giving him the rest of his memories and unlocking his full power. But anyway, well, seeing the Naruto is at the moment trying to, well, master the powers of the crown by pushing his body to, at the moment, he's at 55%. As he can feel his muscles tearing. As he begins to push himself further, as he reaches 60, as well, he's about to begin, well, in fits of training, kind of like how Goku does with his trillion sit-ups, in like 10 seconds somehow. I'm not even sure. But he doesn't train to that degree. He trains more to around a few 100,000 per day. As he's not a god like Goku quite literally is. Goku is like a mortal god in a way. He's not immortal, which means he's technically isn't a god. He's just a really powerful mortal. Same way Zamasu is just a really weak god. But anyway, Naruto begins his training as Inari would come to check in on him with a snack of like a sandwich, and he'd have one for him and one for Naruto. As they'd kind of talk over what happened the last 2 years, as Inari would explain that his grandpa had become the mayor of the new town. As Tasno had kind of begun to look like the third Hokage because, well, he was under the stress of being the leader and having to unite the people consistently. So, well, so Tasno had actually had asked a few tips from the third Hokage multiple times because they had become friends over the past 3 years. Because since the third Hokage was retired, he could actually leave the village and go visit places. So he did visit the land of waves as he met with Osmo, and they had become friends. As he asked the third Hokage from advice from time to time, as he asked the third Hokage gave him some pretty good advice, some advice he wished he followed himself when he was Hokage. As he told him to stand strong and firm with his decisions and don't look back, but learn from your mistakes and don't repeat them. Tasno would say thank you, as he'd use these lessons to lead the Land of Waves into a much, much better, well, quality of life. As, well, the average person, every person in the Land of Waves was happy. Like, everyone was happy. Nobody was getting attacked, no one got into fights. It was just peaceful. It was a peaceful little ocean town. But it was a huge trade center. Though no illegal trade happened there because of the protection from both the Mist Village and Leaf Village. As technically the Land of Waves is a part of the Mist Country. Well, not the Mist Country, but I don't remember what country the Mist Version is in. I think it's the Water Country or something like that. Well, rice country or something like that. I don't remember. But well, the the Mist Village is technically in the water country, but the only reason the Leaf Village got this mission is because the Mist Village was in the middle of the Civil War, which is why Zabuza and Haku were there in the first place. So yeah, Naruto had actually gone not Naruto, but Naruto well Todokage would have become Prince Sasuke. They would have had these talks about leadership and all these other things. As Todokage realized Sasuke was a great guy and a really good drinking buddy, so they would actually drink together from time to time. Sometimes Sasuke comes to Leaf Village, sometimes Todokage goes to Land of Flames, but they overall became pretty good friends. So they have that going on. As Naruto would explore the Land of Waves, see what's changed. As he'd see, I'm pretty sure, I don't think I made a stand, but I'm just gonna say when he fixed the bridge all those years ago, he did make a food stand. And they had actually maintained that food stand over these years as a symbol of the times where things were tough. As this food stand was a symbol of perseverance for the people of the Land of Waves. This food stand had inspired a lot of people to take action against Gato. So they had actually kept the food stand and made it the symbol of their village, along with the bridge. And it's kind of like a historical marker. So they maintain the food stand like every day. Like they do sell food out of it occasionally for special events, such as the anniversary of getting rid of Gato or other things like that, or like the Independence Day of the village, which basically what's Independence Day of the village, or the founding day of the village, or stuff like that. They'll use the food stand then, as the food from it kind of had like a special blessing, which I'm gonna give Naruto the ability to give. Well, I'm gonna give Mori Jin the ability to give blessings, though he will not give them often, like at all. Pretty sure this would be the only blessing he actually gives someone. He actually blessed that food stand with the ability of anything cooked at that stall to taste absolutely delicious. Kind of like how Raki's ramen, how the ramen guy kind of makes his ramen taste like the best in the world. But I'm not sure if it's because of a blessing, natural talent, or he's just a prodigy, but in a different way. But the ramen guy's ramen is something else. So, you know, I'm speaking kind of bland here, but that's normally how I am. If I'm really hyped about a video, you'll know when I am. But I was actually pretty hyped for this video. I'm not really sure why I'm speaking so bland, but when I start to talk like story format, a voice changes. So anyway, continuing on, Naruto explored the Land of Waves. The next day, Jiraiya woke up. He realized that, his gut was sore for one, and his back was hurting a lot, so he decided to ask Naruto what happened, as Naruto explained to him that, Tayuya had kind of punched him back to the bridge. Speaking of Tayuya, I have to explain how much more powerful she had got as well, because it could be important to the story later. Well, seeing as Tayuya is the ship, I'm not sure if I said that before or not. Tayuya is the ship, so she is the reincarnation of Pandora, and over these 3 years, she had unlocked Pandora's armor. And since there is no gods, there are no taboos, so she has all her armor, she has her full power. but her body cannot handle her full power for more than about 10 minutes. If she goes further than that, she'll pass out. So she kind of has a limiter like Naruto does. As Naruto would kind of have to explain to Jiraiya what happened to, well, him and how he ended up in the land of Wave. This Jiraiya would be kind of mad about this, but in the end, he just laughed it off because, well, he kind of picked at Naruto for having a quote unquote girlfriend, but not a girlfriend because they're not actually dating yet. They more just like each other but won't admit it. Well, Naruto is close to admitting it, but Taiyu just denies the possibility altogether, as she just thinks of it as like survivor's guilt or something. So she decides to, or Taiyu actually decides to go and become a bounty hunter, at least for the moment. While Naruto actually goes back to Leaf Village with Jiraiya about 3 days later, after saying goodbye to Inari, Tazunami, and Tazuna. As they're sending them off, they would all feel a sense of deja vu as they'd see Naruto when he was 12, who'd be a bit shorter and wouldn't be carrying a galley around. As Naruto would still have the same clothes, so he'd just leave, and, well, they'd go back to Leaf Village, which would only take them like it would take them like half a day, because one, Naruto is kind of traveling with Jiraiya, meaning he won't have to slow himself down that much. So Naruto could make it back in like 10 minutes if he ran full speed, but Jiraiya would be stuck there by himself. So he decides he'll just go back there at a speed Jiraiya can keep up with. So he goes at half speed, and it takes him around 3 hours. So it's not fast, but it's not slow. It's not as fast as he could go, but it's not slow. So Naruto would have actually, first, he would have gone to Tsunade, where Kakashi and Sakura and Sasuke just so happen to be. As they would see Naruto, well, no, Sakura would not be there. The same thing would happen with, well, Naruto kind of standing on the post, looking around the village like he did in canon. Sakura, who he would spot Sakura as he walked up, saying hi to Sakura. As they still have the conversation like in canon, as they did in Ichiraku Ramen, where they see Shikamaru and Choji getting some ramen. Where Taiuchi would say hey to Naruto, and Shikamaru and Choji saying hey to Naruto as well. So Naruto, well, they'd catch up over the years, as Naruto would ask Shikamaru if he had finally gotten with Tamari yet, because he had sensed something between the two of them. Shikamaru would kind of try to just change the subject, but Naruto, knowing what he's trying to do, would just disregard whatever else he was talking about, and he'd keep bringing it up until Shikamaru would finally say, "Yes, we're dating. Can you leave me alone about it? You're such a drag, Naruto." As Shoji would kind of just laugh. He'd say, "Why didn't you tell me, Shikamaru? I thought we were friends." As Shikamaru would just kind of sigh and keep on going. As he asked Shoji the same question, he's like, "My only love is food. I don't know what you're talking about." And Shikamaru kind of says, "Oh yeah? Then what about, I don't remember what Choji's wife's name is. Uh, that's kind of my bad." But as he'd say, What about that so-and-so role you had a crush on? I showed you it kind of turned red. You say, I don't know what you're talking about, Shikamaru. Shikamaru would kind of just smirk as he asked the same question to Naruto. Naruto kind of look away, turning red. And Shikamaru would kind of just be like, oh, so he has found someone. So Naruto would just, well, would just kind of try to kind of change the subject like Shikamaru did. But Shikamaru wouldn't fall for his own trick, so he'd catch Naruto slipping basically as he trying to try and interrogate Naruto. But Naruto would just end up saying that it's someone you don't know. And Shikamaru would kind of just relax then, as he'd just say, "Okay, Naruto, if you say so." Because Naruto would kind of just sigh and leave. Shikamaru would catch this, and Joji would just keep eating his ramen. As they would end up running into, well, they would actually end up going to the Hokage office. And Jiraiya would have already gone there, and Naruto would have walked in, where Sasuke and Kakashi would have been. As Kakashi would have been training Sasuke, Tsunade would have been training Sakura, Jiraiya would have been training Naruto. As Kakashi would be made a Sani, because, well, he has the power to become one. Pretty sure he could beat Jiraiya if, well, if he didn't have the Sharingan limited him. So, and yes, the Sharingan limits. The Sharingan takes up so much of his chakra and limits his depth perception so much that, well, he's only around 2/3 of his full power when he's using the Sharingan. He even says it himself that he's stronger without it. So, yes, the Sharingan does limit Kakashi's power. It limits his chakra too, so. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura would kinda, actually, no. He'd check in with Tsunade the first day he's back, as Tsunade kinda hug him, as she'd kinda go all kind of like the same way any kind of ant would run up to you, kind of be swinging you around while hugging you, saying "I miss you so much" and all of that. As an Naruto kind of be getting kind of suffocated at the moment. He wouldn't be able to say anything. As Jiraiya would have a nosebleed. As Tsunade would notice Jiraiya having a nosebleed, she'd turn. She'd kind of look at Jiraiya like he's stupid, as, well, she'd punch him out of the building. As he'd be knocked out in front of Ichiraku's stand because he would have just slid there to the village. As Naruto kind of tells Tsunade to calm down, as she would try to calm herself, as she gotta just think, that damn pervert, don't get on my nerves. I wish he was still gone. But at least Naruto's back. So she'd be a bit she'd be a bit confused on the emotional part because she's pretty mad at Jiraiya, but she's happy Naruto's back. So she'd just take happy over anger because she has to be happy for Naruto. As, well, she told Naruto that Sakura, and Sasuke are doing another test with Kakashi to see how strong they've gotten over these past 3 years. As Naruto would say, okay, so this time I'm not holding back. As Kakashi would kind of chuckle at this, give a little eye smile as he'd say, I'm not holding back either, Naruto. As he'd say, I've been training over these past 2 years as well. As yes, he would have trained over these past 3 years. I still would have gotten some mastery of the Sharingan to the point where he could use it. Well, he could use Kamui without draining too much of his chakra. And, well, he no longer has to worry about his eyes kind of bleeding, because Naruto fixed that. She gained some mastery over it, but he did not unlock Mangekyo yet, so he still has to worry about going blind. Well, the Eternal Mangekyo yet. So, not bad. Not bad again, yeah. But anyway, as we skip to, well, the next day, Naruto would, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura would actually be getting ready to do the belt test against Kakashi. So, Naruto this time would ask Sasuke to come up, well, they actually wouldn't know it's a belt test, and this time, actually, it's not going to be a belt test. It's going to be a teamwork exercise against Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi. As the only opponent they knew they would be facing is Kakashi, because Tsunade didn't tell Sasuke or tell Sakura that she'd be fighting her, and Jiraiya didn't tell Naruto that he'd be fighting him. So it's basically a 3-on-3 fight, as it'd be the 3 Sannin against, well, the Team 7. Like I said earlier, Kakashi is a Sannin because he did master the Sharingan. Well, the furthest he can for the moment. So Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke. Oh, forgot to mention that Kakashi would have married Anko by now, and they would already have their first child. Uh, I'm gonna say that it is a because I like the name. You know what? Just because I'm gonna say that it was a. I'm gonna say it was a girl, and Kakashi names her Rin after his teammate, after his fallen comrade. As we skip back to the battle, as well, we wouldn't skip to the next day yet. Let's go back before the battle. So Naruto would be in the Forest of Death training like usual. Well, training like he would have 3 years ago, where he'd still run into Anko, because Anko still hangs around the Forest of Death to reminisce about old memories and to think about things. As she'd see Naruto, she'd smile and try to sneak up on him, but Naruto, having a monkey's instincts, would know immediately that someone is nearby. As she'd just play dumb, as Anko kind of jump out to grab him, but he just dodged as she'd fall on the ground. As she'd be a bit rusty due to being, well, married and having a child and everything like that, she would have done less missions than normal, being worried about her child's parent, being worried about her child, because, well, she already, no, I don't know, I don't need to explain this, what am I doing? But anyway, she would have been taking less missions, so she would have gotten a bit rusty. As Naruto would realize this, as he'd say that, well, Uncle, it seems your skills have gotten a bit rusty since you had a child and gotten married. We might need to work on that. As Naruto, we kind of get this evil grin because in the training battles, anytime Naruto got a bit rusty from taking a break, Anko would punish him severely for it. Which her punishments were basically sparring matches. Constant sparring matches for hours on it. His Anko would kind of gulp at this as they spend the rest of the day sparring. But Naruto holding nothing back in the way of taijutsu, but holding back his power to that of Anko. So Well, that is slightly stronger than Anka, so she'd still be getting more powerful in the process. She'd just get less rusty too. So, well, Kakashi's skills would have gotten sharper because he would have consistently kept training. So, yeah. I'm gonna say at this point, well, baby Ren is 3 years old. That's Anka would have had the child around 2 months after Naruto left. So, not 2 months, more like 6 months. 6 months after Naruto left. So, yeah. Anyway, Naruto would have, after they were done, Naruto would congratulate her on the baby because she kind of forgot to do that the first time. He was too busy on trying to work the rust off of Anko's skills and kind of punishing her, getting a bit of revenge for what happened all those years earlier. So, Naruto would just smile as he'd say, sorry, I think I went too hard on you, but kind of had to get a bit of revenge for all those years of hellish training you put me through. So Naruto just kind of chuckled at this as she would leave. Well, as he would leave, as he'd go to get some rest before tomorrow's battle, or tomorrow's test. We get to the next day, we get to where I was before. Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto against Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kakashi. As this battle would dictate whether they become the next three Sannin or not. Sasuke would still have a blade, it just wouldn't be the grass cutter blade. It would actually be Itachi's Tanto, as Itachi kind of had left it for him after everything had happened. As even though Sasuke felt a deep hatred for Itachi, he couldn't just get rid of the last thing he held, the last thing his family held dear, as everything else would have been destroyed or sold off to different villages. As nobody in the village wanted Uchiha stuff because they hated Uchiha. So, Sasuke would have Itachi's Tanto strapped onto his hip. As he take it out, as he infused with lightning chakra. While Naruto took out Yaoi, and Sakura began to pump chakra throughout her body. As Kakashi would have explained this test, as they would have thought it was a bell test again, but no, it was actually just a 3-on-3 spar. As Naruto would know he could beat Jiraiya, he knew he could beat Jiraiya, but he did not know about Tsunade or Kakashi, seeing as Tsunade has strength that rivals his, but her only problem is that she does not have as much energy as he does. As in an endurance battle, she would be the tank to wear him down, while Kakashi would be the powerhouse attacking him from behind. And Jiraiya would be the decoy. As Jiraiya would kind of just be the decoy for Sasuke and Sakura. As this is exactly what would happen. As the battle starts, Jiraiya would immediately isolate Sasuke and Sakura from Naruto, while Tsunade and Kakashi would attack Naruto simultaneously. While Naruto is holding on Tsunade, Kakashi would try to shoot a fireball jutsu at him, which he would dodge, as he kind of just kicked Kakashi away, as he's holding nothing back in taijutsu throughout this battle, because his last battle with Tsunade was not serious, and Tsunade was not using her full power because she was drunk. Seeing as this is a serious battle for Tsunade as well, she would use her 100 healings mark, as the power between Naruto and Tsunade. Tsunade would actually have 20% of Naruto's full power. If Naruto realizes that she's forcing him to use more power in his more of Mori-Jin's power into his attacks. So Naruto would use that as Kakashi would begin to use. Well, he'd begin to try to use the Dragon Flame Bombs, which I'm sure he would have learned because he did battle. He did fight in a war with the Third Hokage, and the Third Hokage, being the most popular person on the battlefield, would kind of know. He would have seen it at least once with a Sharingan. So Naruto, well, Kakashi would begin to use Dragon Flame Bombs on Naruto. And just like letting y'all know, Dragon Flame Bombs are kind of like the Phoenix Flower Jutsu. But instead of shooting them all at once, you kind of just shoot them like a cannon would. One at a time, and you can time whenever you shoot them. So, and they explode on contact with the ground or the person. So, it's a pretty deadly jutsu. I'm pretty sure it's like a B rank jutsu. So, Naruto would begin to dodge the Dragon Flame Bombs, but you can continue using the Dragon Flame Bombs for as much chakra as you want to, which is something special about it. Pretty sure it's the Saratobi clan, one of the Saratobi clan's special jutsu, but seeing as it is not a Kekkei Genkai like the Ash style, it can be copied by Sharingan. So Kakashi would know it as he tried to use Dragon Flame Bombs, but he stopped after 3, knowing that 3 is probably the best amount to use because it doesn't take too much of his chakra and it doesn't take too much time or energy to use. So if he would have used 4, he would not have enough to do what I'm going to talk about next. As Tsunade would begin to take this battle more seriously, she would begin to to attack faster and faster, forcing Naruto to begin attacking faster, using both his hands and his legs. Now they'd be both fighting in the Senju style, but Naruto would gradually begin moving up to the Monkey King fighting style on instant. As Tsunade would begin to have more and more trouble predicting Naruto's movements, as we just see Kakashi charging up a lightning blade in the background. As well, seeing as there would be no birds around due to the pure power coming off of Naruto and Tsunade's punches clashing, you wouldn't hear the thousand birds. Naruto just feel the cackling of lightning as Kakashi was about to pierce him in the shoulder with the Chidori. So Naruto would activate the dragon armor just before it hit him, as the dragon armor would take the blow, kind of just send it back at Kakashi, which would send him flying into a tree. Kakashi wouldn't be knocked out, but he would cough up blood. So he'd be leaning against the tree, taking a break, while Naruto and Tsunade kind of went back to the battle, as they'd be going blow for blow. And Kakashi would realize that that wouldn't work, as eventually Naruto would have knocked out Tsunade, and Naruto would have looked at Kakashi, and Kakashi would have, by this point, substituted and left the substitution there. Naruto would notice that this is a substitution, so he'd kind of mess with Kakashi. So he would do the same thing, making a shadow clone and kind of just going underground. And if you know where I'm going with this, you are a real G, honestly. You're a good person. I'm not saying you're a bad person for not knowing, just saying that you probably didn't watch the original Naruto or my first part. So, Naruto would kind of slither around as he used that headhunter jutsu on Kakashi. Kakashi would kind of be stuck in the ground. So Naruto would go as deep into the earth as possible, as he possibly could, making it past the mantle and near the what's the layer called? Not the core, but just above it. He'd make it to the molten rock layer. As he'd then just jump up, going as fast as possible, as he'd use the thousand years of death on Kakashi again. As Kakashi would kind of think, oh god, here we go again. As Naruto used a thousand years of death on him, but it'd be much, much worse. As Kakashi would actually have a bit of permanent damage from this. As he begins to regret ever showing Naruto that jutsu in the first place. While he's in midair, fading in and out of consciousness from the pure pain of Naruto using 1,000 years of death on him. So Naruto will kind of just be laughing, like as hard as possible, just rolling on the ground, laughing at Kakashi, while Kakashi's flying through the village, kind of landing, like kind of flying literally all across the village, screaming his head off. As Anko, who would have been, well, kind of just holding her baby on a walk throughout the village, would see Kakashi going flying across the village screaming. As she'd know what this is, as she'd start laughing at him and just point at him, as all the other Jonin would see this as well, and then as they'd start laughing too. So Naruto would be doing the same thing as Kakashi would land in the hospital, where he would have been knocked out by this point, but he would have been knocked out by the impact of the window he hit, which is not. It's not. A window cannot take very much impact. It's just that Kakashi was moving really fast. As if there were memes at this point in time in Naruto, Kakashi would have become a meme. It wouldn't even be debatable. As it would have been just so funny to see him flying through the air, screaming his head off. It would have become internet famous instantly. So, Naruto would have, well, Naruto would have gotten off the floor laughing eventually. As in, well, he kind of just sit on a tree as he wait for Sasuke and Sakura to be done with the battle. As we skip over to Sasuke and Sakura. Well, Jiraiya had isolated the both of them. Well, since my earbuds seem to be going dead, I'm going to have to end this video off soon. So after the spell test, I'm going to end it off. Well, after, not the bell test, but after the test. So Naruto, not Sasuke and Sakura would be fighting Jiraiya. As Jiraiya would be using his toad summoning, not Tamabutsu, but smaller toad summonings to try to just counter Sasuke's fire jutsu and keep Sakura at a distance where she couldn't punch him. As Sakura would get the idea to punch the ground, create an earthquake, making it unstable for Jiraiya. As she'd tell Sasuke this, as Sasuke would he would jump in the air. As Sakura would punch the ground, making an earthquake. As Sasuke would land, as he'd go destroy the toad summoning with his Tonto, and, well, he'd kind of Chidori Jiraiya in the shoulder. Jiraiya, being able to use his other arm, would begin to weave hand signs. As he'd weave not fire style, he'd use water style water dragon jutsu. Wait, no. He doesn't have water style. He has wind style and fire style. So, he actually weaved wind style, wind gale palm, as Sasuke would have just taken the Chidori right out of Jiraiya, as he'd just gale palm Sasuke away. As Sakura would have taken this as her chance, as she would have went up, kind of using Sasuke as kind of like a shield. As soon as he wouldn't gale palm Sasuke away, Sakura would be in his face as she'd basically punch him full power across the village as he'd land in the same hospital as Kakashi. But he would have been knocked out by the punch, so, Jiraiya basically got easied on, so I kind of feel bad for him. He kind of got body bagged, but we're not talking about that. Anyway, well, I'm gonna have to leave it off here. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm recording the next part in 2 days. That's gonna be my recording schedule. I know I haven't been following it as of late, but well, I need to improve that, which is what I've been trying to do. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed it, say in the comments, leave a like, subscribe, and well, peace.